All right, let's talk my favorite, money, power, politics. According to the White House, it is Made in America Week, celebrating manufacturing in the United States. So we decided to shop locally at Trump Tower, right down the block, and see if the president's own business is practicing what he is preaching. Back in January, we found this. I want you to look at this towel, but the tag says it's made in China. This baby bib, it was made in Peru. Long sleeve t-shirt, made in Pakistan. We decided to give it some time, and we went back in April and found the same thing. Several products made in other countries. Now, less than 24 hours ago, after the Made in America announcement, we thought we would see something different and made our third trip to the tower, and here's what we found. This Trump golf club hat, made in Bangladesh. This Trump golf towel, made in China. Along with the Trump bobblehead. You can purchase it here, but it is made there. And this children's t-shirt made in Nicaragua. Now, this first family with their picture on it mug, which you're gonna have your morning coffee with, not made in the United States. It is, in fact, made in Thailand. Of course, we reached out to the White House and the Trump Organization to ask about this, and neither responded to requests for comments. So my question is, will you practice what you preach? I want to bring in CNBC contributor Ron Insana, along with senior editor at The Atlantic, Derek Thompson. Ron, the White House had to know these criticisms would be coming. Why wouldn't they just move their manufacturers?
Well, as any manufacturer in the United States knows, it's not all that easy to disrupt a supply chain where you get things from other parts of the world. This is a
you can change your future contracts.
Of course you can, yes, and it takes some time to do that. But it has largely been a do as I say, not as I do administration thus far. This is not that surprising. And, you know, low margin goods that require labor, like textiles, when you're talking about T-shirts or towels and things like that, were, you know, transported away from the United States starting in the 1970s. Rather interestingly, some of those businesses are coming back, but they're automated. So textiles, for instance, coming back to the United States, you have robotics doing the work. We're not getting laborers back in, so it's not your father's textile business. It's a very complicated question, Stephanie, about what actually gets made here, what should get made here, and what's part of a global supply chain that brings products around the world to us and exported overseas.
Ivanka Trump, this is what she does. She makes clothing, and if you look across the board, China, Bangladesh, not the United States. Now, the president of her company, Abigail Clem, was quoted on this, and she said, the workers no longer exist here, or only in a very small capacity. The machinery, in many instances, does not exist. It's a complex problem. To Ron's point, it is. Except, of course, when these points have been made to the president, he says, I don't care. We're going to make in America. We're going to buy in America. Ivanka Trump's company clearly saying, you don't have the option here. There isn't clothing manufacturing in scale in the United States. And Americans have proven they want cheap goods. Where do they prove that? Everyday buying from Amazon. Amazon Prime Day was extraordinarily successful. What's happening in shopping malls? No one's going there.
I mean, everything you're saying is exactly right. And I think it's a really easy layup for critics of the Trump administration. I mean, you say that you're going to, you know, try to make more stuff in America, try to hire more America, in the exact same week that it's very easily proved that Ivanka's company, Donald Trump's company, makes a lot of their stuff overseas. And on Monday, the first day of Made in America Week, the Trump administration says they're going to grow the number of temporary visas for immigrants working in the U.S., hiring non-American. Now, immigration is fine, but it's just
tourism, though, and businesses like
like Mar-a-Lago, right? Yeah. So it's just so unbelievably hollow. These themed weeks. Infrastructure Week, for example, had no infrastructure plan. Workforce Development Week had no new workforce development plan. Made in America Week is from an administration that doesn't, in fact, make their stuff in America. It's just so unbelievably easy to expose the hollowness of these policy promises.
Okay, it's easy to expose it, so the media is going to say, what, are you kidding me? I mean, he's got Mike Pence going to the National Retail Federation to give a speech today when retailers are truly getting smoked, unless you're Zara or H&M, who produce in mass overseas.
Yeah. Right.
When and if Does the rubber hit the road with the president's messaging and those who voted for him on things like this?
Well, it can't, actually. I mean, the U.S. should be preeminent in high-end, value-added manufacturing. That's where high-wage jobs come from. That's where technological breakthroughs come from. That's why we have Amazon. That's why we have companies that are pushing the production frontier, if you will, and doing things that aren't being done elsewhere in the world.
Factory workers are simply going to work for a lot less money in places like China, Bangladesh, and Vietnam.
Having said that, though, in some manufacturing businesses, the U.S. is as cost competitive as China and most other countries. We have a low cost of energy, which is the biggest single input to manufacturing. So for certain sectors of the manufacturing arena, we're doing quite well.
Let me just say that to your point, you know, the United States retail industry has lost 80,000 jobs since the second half of
dwarfing
steel. Dwarfing steel as well. Like, Trump talks about steel and coal as if they're the only two industries that exist in the U.S. economy. We've lost more jobs in retail than exist in either of those two sectors. No one at the administration level talks about it because, quite honestly, they don't have a plan to solve it. They want to talk about Made in America. They want to talk about Hired in America. But they have temporary visa plans for their immigrants. They make all their stuff in Bangladesh. So I think that there's this enormous disconnect between exactly what Steve was talking about in the last segment. The disconnect between the impression Trump wants to make, being in the driver's seat of the proverbial fire truck of America, versus the actual policies that he represents, which is just a total mess on healthcare, infrastructure, workforce development across the board.
And you're not going to get to the year 2050 by going to the year 1950. And that's really what the Trump plan is all about, is restoring jobs that simply can't come back, as opposed to looking forward and seeing how we educate and train people for the jobs that are still to come.
If you wanted to embrace the future of America business and the global universe, then you would be getting behind companies like Google and Apple, who will face off against Baidu and Alibaba, not the steel industry. It's an extraordinary one, but guess what? It's Made in America Week, Bangladesh. Up next, thank you very much.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.